Okay, so learned helplessness is just when you feel like it doesn't matter what you do, everything happens to you, you're going to fail anyway, so why even try? I think it's word on the test, like there's a stimulus and you just don't respond to it and you make no effort, something like that. That's going to be learned helplessness, definitely on the test. This is another big one. This is always on FRQs. We're not doing an FRQ on this test, but it'll definitely be on your test. You got to know the difference between internal locus of control and external locus of control. And that is just your internal locus of control is that you have the power to make things happen. It's different than self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is how effective your efforts are going to be. This is about control. And so I make things happen. I'm in control of my own destiny, that kind of thing. Someone with an external locus of control believes things are happening to them. It's a matter of fate or other, things that other people are doing, and there's nothing they can really do about it. An external locus of control can lead you to the idea of learned helplessness. If you feel it doesn't matter, your efforts don't matter. And so oftentimes external locus of control and low self-efficacy working together give you that sense of, give you depression, or make it more likely to have depression. So know the difference. What's internal locus of control versus external locus of control. Trait theory, the last of the theories about personality. We threw a lot of names at you. Know the keywords. Alport, you want to know essential trait, and that is 5 to 10 traits that really are going to predict how someone will behave most of the time, okay? Cardinal trait is this overarching trait that really the person becomes known for. So we use the example of Scrooge and greed. So if there's one thing that really dominates your personality, that's going to be a cardinal trait. Not everybody has those. Cattell, factor analysis is the important thing for him. He's the first one to do that, and he uses statistics to basically pare down the Allport's list of 200 traits into 16 clusters. So if you see anything about clusters of traits, that's it. He also creates the 16 PF, which is one of the tests you took. Myers and Briggs, they are really influenced by Jung. His ideas of personality type and archetype, or not archetype, personality type, and then that idea of extrovert and introvert, and they create the MBTI, Myers-Briggs Type Indicator test, and it's really based on that, creating personality types. And the very first thing, first letter in that combination, their 16 combination, is E or I, and so that's extrovert or introvert. So heavily influenced by Jung. COSTA and MCCREA, they're really known for the big 5. You got to know the big 5. It's on the next one. Also know the criticisms of trait theory. I mean, essentially, they just don't put enough emphasis on situation. Social cog puts everything on situation, so they're criticized for that. Trait theorists, it's all about the traits, and so not about the situation. So that's that person-situation controversy. It's trait theory versus social cog there. All right, you got to know the big 5. You have to know what openness is and traits of openness. So, what's a high score? You're curious, you want to try new things, you have a wide range of interests. Got to know that one. Conscientiousness, always on the test. And that is how driven you are, how goal-oriented, how dependable, reliable, thoughtful, hardworking. Those are all indicators that you have a high level of conscientiousness. So you want to know if it's low, you're the opposite of that. Extroversion, you're outgoing, you're sociable, you get your energy from groups of people. So that's extroversion versus introversion. If you're low on extroversion, that means you're introverted and you're more quiet and withdrawn. Agreeableness is how easy to get along with are you? How cooperative, how helpful, how empathetic. And so that's going to be agreeableness. And then neuroticism, always on the test. If you had to pick 2 to absolutely know, neuroticism and conscientiousness are really important. Neuroticism, again, that comes from that Horneye stuff. And that is how stable are your emotions really. So in this one, it's kind of the opposite. A high score in neuroticism means you're unstable. You are very emotional, usually with negative emotions. You're anxious, you're worried, you're unhappy. If you have a low score in neuroticism, then you're calm and maybe a little bit more laid back, even tempered, they say, and secure. So you're stable. Okay. So, and the Eysenck, looked at that as well. So, but know those big 5 traits. They're going to ask you. It's an FRQ thing always on the final AP exam, but definitely on the test, like a lot. It's actually because it appears, COSTA and MCCREA appear in testing, which is standard 2, and then also in standard 1, you're going to see these questions all over the place. This is where you want to put your time. All right, testing, you got to know the difference between an objective test for personality and a projective. Objective tests are used by trait theorists, okay? And this is where you do the self-report inventories. You're going to answer questionnaires, a whole bunch of questions. You did that in your personality profile. You did objective test for personality. It's graded by the computer, it can be easily graded, and it's not subject to any interpretation. Examples of objective tests. You want to know which tests are objective and which tests are projective. MBTI, Myers-Briggs, the MMPI. Know that the MMPI is the only one that has validity scales, so you can't really lie on it. They're going to be able to test it. This is the one psychologists use most of the time, and it has to be done by a trained professional. That's why you didn't take the MMPI, because it can also be used for diagnostic purposes for mental illnesses. 16PF is objective. Eysenck is objective. They use the NEO-PR to test for the big 5 traits. That's objective, right? Take a look at the strengths and weaknesses, and know that generally. Don't forget about the Barnum effect, and that is our tendency that we'll agree with vague statements that are positive about us. If they say something ambiguous, but it's positive, we tend to believe that about ourselves. That's the Barnum effect. Then you've got your projective test. Projective is you're projecting, think projection, you're projecting your beliefs onto something, whether it's ink blots in the Rorschach or these ambiguous pictures in the TAT test, thematic apperception test. That is, you're projecting onto those. These are used in psychoanalysis. So these are used by the psychoanalytic approach and psychodynamic approach. And so you'd be shown these cards and you ask what you see on the Rorschach if you're shown ink blots. On thematic apperception test, you're shown a picture and you're supposed to describe what's happening in the picture. And then the person who's administering that test will interpret what you chose there. All right. And so this is very much, projection is a defense mechanism. It's psychoanalysis. So a projective test, you're projecting your feelings onto ink blots. Do you see an evil bat, or do you see, a heart? So that says different things about us. That is the idea of projective test. Know that the TAT test is thematic apperception. So many times kids will be like, what is thematic apperception? It's TAT. We just call it the TAT test. All right. These tests, projective, they're subjective because the psychologist is interpreting your results based on what you said. In objective tests, there's no interpretation. It just puts out a result. Here are your 4 letters if it's Myers-Briggs. Okay. So know the difference, know the examples. And Rorschach and thematic apperception are going to be the ones that you get. All right, very last thing, thank goodness. This is individualism versus collectivism. It's super easy. The video in the notes is really good. Like if you're going, what does this have to do with personality? Go back and watch that video. I can't remember, it's Dr. somebody, but it's really good to explain it. It made me go, oh, that's what they're talking about. But basically, the idea is that our culture can influence our personality, which makes a lot of sense. And an individualistic culture, that's what the United States is, and most Western cultures, we value individual. Oh my goodness, don't we value the individual? And so it's all about our self-esteem and our self-worth and all those things. The self is super important, but in a collectivist culture, the group takes priority. It's about society. And so that is usually reflected in Eastern cultures. And so when these different characteristics are valued, that's going to affect your personality. So where in individualistic cultures you value independence, collectivist cultures value how well you work with others, all right? And so instead of being self-reliant in an individualistic culture, it's more valued to be connected to others. So those cultural implications, it's a little bit of behaviorism, what you learn in your environment. Those cultural implications affect our personalities. They help shape our personalities. So if we're born in the West, we're going to have different personality traits and characteristics because those have been valued than we are if we're born in the East. So just be generally aware of it. There's a couple of questions on it. And that is it, my friends. Good luck on the test. And, you can always email me or Miss Mailer if you have any questions as a result of this review video. Hopefully you'll do well on your test.